Good morning, CLC. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for everything you do, everything you give. And in this moment and at this time, since we are here for love, I invite each and every one of you to receive the healing that is universal love and light itself. If you feel so inclined, go ahead and take a nice deep cleansing breath in, receiving that energy, that love, that light. And as you release your breath, give back all that no longer serves you. Allow it to just wash away from your body. Allow it to wash away from your mind. Let go of any past or future events. And as you take another nice deep cleansing breath in and releasing that breath, relaxing your body, allow your mind to be here now. Universal love enfolds me. Universal wisdom inspires me. Universal spirit enlightens me. Universal power encircles me. I am one, and all is well. As we begin this inner healing process, let me invite you to relax in quiet confidence, opening yourself up to the miracle-working higher power. Now symbolize the unity of your thinking and feeling nature by touching your chest with your hand, and let my words act as your own, for your own inner healing, acceptance, and receptivity. I acknowledge that there is a power, intelligence, and wisdom greater than my own. I am in the midst of it, and it is in the midst of me, sensitive and responsive to my every thought, word, action, and feeling. I now make this true for myself by saying aloud, I acknowledge. Acknowledging this higher power working through my life, I admit that I am personally responsible for solving my own problems while being guided and assisted by something greater than myself. As I am ready to surrender the conflicts of my ego to the wisdom of this infinite presence, I simply speak these words: I surrender. Knowing that forgiveness is the key to unconditional love and the feeling of heaven, I now unconditionally forgive anyone and everyone who has ever injured me in any way, real or imagined. And I now forgive myself for all of my mistaken judgments and their resulting actions. From my deepest level of understanding, I now say, I forgive. Realizing that I continually experience the effects of my own thinking, I now choose to allow this higher power to recreate me deeply, filling my mind with thoughts that are only positive, constructive, loving, and beautiful. I call upon this divine inflow by stating aloud, I choose. I now center upon that one very special idea that I'm willing to accept as real for me in this coming week. Visualizing that idea as already acted upon and brought to pass. In seeing my idea become a fact of my experience, I enjoy the happiness and peace of my thought fulfilled and gratefully speak these words. I accept, knowing that I have an everlasting place in the midst of the power that sustains all creation, as well as the support of all those around me. I allow myself to relax in the peace of fulfillment and gratitude and say, I release. Now, in my mind's eye, I envision the presence of someone near and dear to me. This can be a friend, a family member, a teacher or mentor, someone who has touched my life in deep and loving ways. Someone who may not be physically present in this room or even on this planet anymore. I turn to that image in my mind's eye and say, I'm grateful for the good in your life. Now I open my eyes, turn to the world around me, and joyfully speak to anyone physically present in this room or virtually on this broadcast, and share in confidence and gratitude in saying, I'm grateful for the good in your lives.
You can tell you're in for it today because I have a portfolio with notes, a book, and a phone. So we may be here a while. I want to start by saying this. When you're a young, new person in a job or in a line of work, especially the ministry, to have an older, wiser individual take you under their wing and guide you is priceless. And it's even more priceless when that person turns into a great friend of many, many decades. I shout out today to the Reverend Dr. Bob Gale, who's having a very significant birthday this morning, and I happen to know he watches us every Sunday. So happy birthday, big guy, and I'll call you later today. I received a pretty good education, but they did a lousy job on poetry. They gave us stuff to read, and then they said, how many feet are in this? Is it iambic? Is it what is it pentameter? Is it this? And what is the poet trying to say? And let's take this apart piece by piece, word by word. And oh, by the way, if you get proficient at this, if anything about this inspires you to write poetry, bear in mind that poets starve. Poets are sweet but basically unemployable individuals who sit there kind of wretchedly writing poetry that nobody reads except in English classes where they take the lines apart and hash them up, It took me some time to realize that I was being taught this by people who had no love of poetry, and you really don't want to be taught a subject by somebody who isn't in love with it. Even math works if the teacher loves math, and can see how everything is numbers. Well, everything is poetry, too. You're a poem, I'm a poem. Everything is a metaphor, everything is an illusion, everything is symbolic of everything else. And so what I thought we'd do for a few weeks, and because I've got enough material for a couple of months, we'll do this for, a couple of months, taking a significant Sunday to to go in a different direction with our beloved Reverend Arthur Johnson at the end of August, who's going to circle back to Raymond Charles Barker, who we just went through last month, you'll recall. Anyway, for the next however many weeks, we're going to look at some poetry and some song lyrics, and we're going to look and see what these things might have to say to us and why we should be looking at this and why it is that our lives are a poem and how it is that we could even create poetry ourselves, actually putting words together to a certain rhythmic pulse or to a certain inner prompting. And that's the assignment that I'm going to have for us, which I'll get more into next week because you don't need an assignment today. But it's going to be to create some poetry in your life, you know, some actual written words and verses that you don't have to share with anybody, and there's no prize, there's no reward. We're not going to bring you in here and make you read the thing and then vote on it, because that goes back to high school and UIL competitions and things like this. So instead it's going to be more of a free-form sort of an exercise in how these stories roll out. So I have a couple for you today, and then you're going to get a real treat when I'm done. But this is what I'm about to read you is said to be the most famous poem ever. Now that's a stretch, because there are a lot of great poems out there, and you probably already have something jump to mind. But this is Sonnet 18 by Shakespeare. And just saying it's Shakespeare kind of rockets it to the, top of the hit parade, right? Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometimes too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often is his gold complexion dimmed, and every fair from fair sometime declines, by chance or nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of that fair thou owest, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growest. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. Now several things come to mind with that. One is that next week I want to bring my iPad so it's bigger. What else comes to mind about that is, shall I compare thee to a summer's day? William Shakespeare did not live in southeast Texas. This much is clear. In many parts of the world, comparing somebody to a summer's day is a delightful thing. Oh, beautiful, summer's finally here. Okay? Here, maybe not so much. How did he hit on a summer's day to compare his love to? Well, even if he missed the mark, which he clearly didn't, that person had to feel special. Anytime you compare somebody favorably to something and go to the trouble to write it down, they've got to feel special. You want to send somebody a card? That's great. You know the best kind of card to send them? The blank one on the inside, where every word is your thought. They actually have these cards now. You've probably seen them in stores. They used to just have birthday and anniversary and bar mitzvah and, kind of typical situational cards. Now they have cards for complicated apologies and explanations. Have you seen these? Yeah. It's like, I'm really sorry I blew it with you, but maybe we can, and instead of writing this yourself, somebody else writes it for you. Probably AI. And all you have to do is draw a little heart at the end and send it. And it's like, well, I don't know if that really serves the purpose quite as well as owning it yourself and putting some blood on the page. Putting some blood on the page. And I think it was Hemingway that said, when you write, there should be blood on the typewriter keys. Now, that's Hemingway, right? And he was kind of graphic that way. But you get the point there. It's like, pour something out of your soul here. So here's Shakespeare comparing to a summer's day. And he said, as long as summer shall last. That's in his Old English, what he was trying to say there at the end. As long as there shall be summers, so shall your beauty continue. What a marvelous idea. Now, as you look around life, look around world, when I say everything is a poem, everything has words to it. Maybe words aren't your thing. They're not everybody's, and that's perfectly cool. But why bring them up is everybody has them. Maybe you like them or maybe you don't, or you're better with numbers or you're better with more abstract imagery, but you do have words. And so everything has a descriptive possibility to it. And if you can't figure out what a thing is, you can relate it to something else that you better understand. This may explain why it is that in thinking about the deity, we've come up with all sorts of representational stuff over time. We've talked about how God, being a father, was sort of a slam dunk image to a family unit where the father was, at that time, the dominant figure in the room. And so, to move things along, that became the stylized image. The Holy Family, the nuclear family that gave presentation, to Jesus Christ. The idea going back earlier than that, the mother of everything, who is, well, that's an easy image. She's right there, And oh yeah, the Son. George Carlin has a wonderful riff about that where he talks about the Christian God he's no longer interested in. He says, from now on I worship the Son. He said, last night I made the decision. No, it wasn't last night. I couldn't see the sun. It was first thing this morning. He said, first thing this morning I got up and I decided I'm going to worship the sun. Why? He said, one very good reason. I can see it. It exists. It's not a theological abstraction. It's a real thing. For another thing, it gives us light and warmth and causes things to grow. And so, and so he's obviously kind of channeling ancient energies there where the sun. But then there's the moon. And she's up there too. And she's evocative of feeling and of mystery. I don't care how old you are and how jaded you are and all the experiences that you've had and how scientifically grounded and everything else. I promise you, if you go out on a full moon night where the clouds are kind of scudding across the face of the moon, you're going to feel kind of a tingle up the back of your neck and you're going to feel a presence of the ancient mystery. You just are. You have to fight it off if you feel you need to, but I encourage you to go completely the other direction and just fall into it, because that's part of the great mystery. And so it's understandable how ancients would say, well, that spirit and different aspects of nature, every aspect of nature, bespeaks the power of the deity. You and I sometimes in modern times get kind of lazy and we try to compact the thing and and in New Thought you can toss it off real easily. You say, well, God is just infinite intelligence and leave it at that. Okay, but what do we mean by that? What is infinite intelligence? What is infinite? What is infinity? How do you style infinity? We have a little sign for it, an 8 on its side, What does infinity look like? Well, I don't know. I don't know, but let me try to find the words. Let me try images, descriptive images in some way, to pull it together to convey a sort of feeling, I remember in school, they gave us E.E. Cummings. Became a favorite of mine. E.E. Cummings was strange because he didn't use punctuation or capitalization, and this was kind of what was highlighted. Well, he was sort of, off the grid or outside the box or something. Well, not only that, but he also, you remember, what was it, last week or the week before when I said, children remembered but only a few, and down they forgot as up they grew, which is a line of his, and then Reverend Lisa pulled the whole poem, Anywhere Lived in a Anyhow, what is it? Anywhere Lived in an Anyhow Town? I think that's the title of it, yeah. Oh, it was Dainill J. Okay, great, yeah. When you read that whole poem, how he takes words and truncates them, splits them, cleaves them in half, and splices them onto other words and other... Why? To get your attention, because what you expect doesn't happen. What you expect does not follow. That's the sign of a great poet, it's a sign of a great writer, it's a sign of a great creative expression, generally, is, oh, I know where this is going, and then it doesn't. It goes somewhere else entirely. It keeps you fresh, and it keeps you alert and in the moment. Well, that's how our relationship to spirit is. Just when we think we've got it figured out, just when we think we've got it all explained, it throws us a curve. And we have to go back and start over from the beginning. How am I in this? How do I choose to feel about this? The best teachers of metaphysics are the ones, we all agree, we who teach metaphysics, are the ones who come up with the best metaphors. And we'll even say this to one another. Oh, great metaphor. I was on a meeting this past week with a bunch of older ministers who've been around a long time, and somebody said something, and there was this chorus of, oh, great metaphor. And then the next thing you heard was the scratching of pens on, right? Because we all, those of us who weren't retired had a Sunday coming up, right? And it's like, I'm going to work that in. Well, I'm going to wait and work it in with you another time. But it's to look and see how this relates, how everything relates to everything else. Look, it's a universe of oneness. Everything is connected to everything else. The problem is not that it's disconnected. The problem, if there is one, is that we don't see the connection. We see division, we see separation, we see alienation, we see estrangement, but we don't see connection. So who's got the work to do? We who are in that space of separation, to see the oneness, to see how all of this fits in together. For example, this just jumped to mind, but you'll hear people talking about generational issues. Like one that I get a kick out, kids today. Any sentence that starts with kids today. Because my generation were the poster children for kids today. Aren't like they used to be. But then you'll hear people my age and younger, parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, well, these kids today, they don't respect authority, they don't, and we trip off into this kind of thing. As if kids today, like, are alien beings who came from some other no. Every generation of children looks around and says, is this all you got? They just do. You heard that song about utopia? We come here expecting utopia. Then we see it's kind of threadbare. Then we see people are mean sometimes and foolish. And even when they're not, they die. They sicken. We don't always get what we feel we need. We're disappointed in and all of it. And so we look at this and then we realize, I got to figure out some strategies for coping with all of this. You know who does that? Everybody. Everybody. Back to the mists of time. So everybody goes through this period of rebellion. Everybody goes through this period of alienation. It's perfectly natural. When we realize that, we realize that the generation that we're looking at in horror, for their behavior, assuming such exists, it's in us. In other words, the adolescent me is still in me. We grow outward like trees, right? We grow outward like from saplings out to full tree. And so the little bitty sprout that I once was didn't go away. It's still within me, within my psyche. It's just been encircled by years of growth and, in some cases, stagnation and kind of a crustiness. Well, a bark, really. Hey, there you go. So you could write a poem like, well, Joyce Kilmer did, about trees and about how, right? There is nothing as lovely as a tree, yet as complicated. All the different ages that we've been exist within the self. So who are we going to blame? And who are we going to point out, single out as being different and strange and bad and wrong? There's nobody to do that. Everything exists. All life is one. All life is one. And poetry helps us to see that. So I have a second poem for you today, which goes to the idea of the educational process. This is by Howard Nemerov, and it's in an actual book printed on paper, and beautiful paper, may I add. The world is full of mostly invisible things, and there is no way but putting the mind's eye or its nose in a book to find them out. Things like the square root of Everest, or how many times Byron goes into Texas, or whether the law of the excluded middle applies west of the Rockies. For these and like reasons, you have to go to school and study books and listen to what you are told and sometimes try to remember. Though I don't know what you will do with the mean annual rainfall on Plato's Republic or the calorie content of the diet of Worms. Such things are said to be good for you, and you will have to learn them in order to become one of the grown-ups who sees invisible things neither steadily nor whole, but keeps gravely the grand confusion of the world under his hat, which is where it belongs, and teaches small children to do this in their turn. So we see the world neither steadily nor whole when we parse it and break it up into pieces of random information that we cram into our heads for the purpose of bringing that information out to prove that we have it, like in the old World War II movies where they would say, "Show us your papers. Show us your papers." We bring out this information and we say, "I happen to know the mean annual rainfall on Plato's Republic." It's kind of silly if you think about it, which again is his point, because he's thinking you're going to say the mean annual rainfall on the Spanish steppes or something. But no, he puts in, right? And so he twists the story around to hold you fixed with the idea of the silliness of the accumulation of trivia out of which to tell a story of life. All of that is useful to you as a mental exercise only. And for that matter, anymore, you have a phone. You have a thing. You have a thing. I'm very happy when somebody turns to me somewhere and they say, "Do you happen to know the mean annual rainfall of such and such?" And I do. And I seldom do. But if I do, don't you wait for that? Don't you wait for that? Don't you walk through the world hoping somebody will ask you some obscure thing that you know, so that you can show that you know it? And how disappointed you are when they go, "Oh, never mind, I'll just Google it." That's not fair. You've robbed me of an opportunity to show my stuff. And does all of that add up to a life? It can. Yet what works best is the anchoring in seeing the world in steadiness and wholeness. That the power that made everything, the steadiness part is this. The wholeness part I've already gone over with you. Everything's all one, okay? And you can chew on that all week or all life, really. But the steadiness part is this. The power that made everything, guess where it went? Nowhere. It's still here. Guess what it stopped doing? Nothing. It's still doing it. First cause, Ernest Holmes, the other architects of New Thought, all say this in their own way. First cause is still causing. What's causing today is not a watered-down, stepped-down version of first cause. It's first cause in this moment, which it sees as being the only moment. And this throws us back into the question of time, which we went over last week, where you and I have been indoctrinated into thinking that time marches on. It doesn't. It marches in. There's a big difference there. All time is happening all at once. And the fact that yesterday was Saturday and tomorrow will be Monday and each of them has a certain, that's just a trick of the light. That's just a scheduling matter for us, to keep a linear lock on things. Because we have agreements with each other. Just show up at a certain time. It wouldn't work real well if we said, well, we're probably going to do a service on Sunday sometime. Get there if you can. Right? Be kind of random, wouldn't it? No. Instead, everything's and then it's got to end. And what if you came into this? I was in some workshops like this years ago where they said, this will end when we tell you it's over. Okay, all right then. But no, you expect reasonably an hour. And you even wear a thing on your wrist. Unless you're a highly technologically advanced human who has the glasses with it in it, or you just use your phone, you know. But so we break infinity up into little pieces for the purpose of process management. And that's fine as a technique. But there's something greater than that that unfolds all of that, which says that everything is happening now, everything is in process now, everything is beauty and wonder now. I'm going to bring you some song lyrics, not today, but in the weeks to come. And I was thinking about, I wanted to say a weird foreshadowing when Ozzy Osbourne had his, Black Sabbath had their final concert. And I came in the Sunday after that, and I said to the musicians, gosh, I thought we were going to have some Black Sabbath covers, you know. And then very shortly after that, he passed. He was somebody who rewrote all the rules. He didn't just perform musically. He was just a star. He created a genre, really. His work did. And there have been so many that passed recently that I just have to mention, like Brian Wilson, the Beach Boys, okay, created something. Sly Stone created something. Everything, you know, George Clinton and everything that followed in the funk world followed Sly Stone and the Family Stone's lead from the 60s, you know. And then most recently, as a proud Texan, Flaco Jimenez. Look up Flaco Jimenez and look at his contribution to music, the fact that, and what each of these individuals had in common, and all the great ones do, is you didn't know what was coming next. You didn't know what key change or what tempo, yet there's something that unites. And I'll get more into the rhythmic aspect next week of all of this, but I'm reminded of something that a touring guest musician told us here on this stage one time. He had been traveling the world as a musical ambassador for the UN. Bob Livingston is his name. And he said, you know what I have found? He would travel through small villages and stuff across the world with his guitar on his back, you know, and children would come out, and you get the picture, the whole kind of the village would sort of gather around to hear, because this is what people do. It's music. Ooh, come outside, let's hear. He said, you know what unites everybody? They don't understand the words. They don't understand the background of all this. They may or may not have a musical indoctrination, but everybody knows the Bo Diddley beat. Everybody knows, what is it, 3 whole notes and 2 halves, or 3 half notes and 2 quarters, you know. Everybody understands that, and they all kind of move to that. That's the thing that underpins our oneness. That's the thing that connects us all together. You may not know much about art, but you know what you like. And it calls to you, and it evokes something from you, powerful and beautiful and wonderful. So, if you want to write poetry, or if you don't, I still recommend it as a tonic thing to do. It's good for the soul. There are 2 ways you can go about it, just briefly. You think about this. One way is images jump to mind. Put them down. Don't worry about the sequence. Just put them down. Gather them out. It's your higher wisdom speaking to you. If a this reminds you of a that, don't question the logic. There likely isn't any. Okay? If a person you are drawn to reminds you of a summer's day, write it down. If a person you're drawn to reminds you of a microphone or a piano or who knows what, write it down. There's a connection there, okay? Something leads to something else. That's one way to go about it. And at the same time, if you're looking for something a little more structured than that, find a rhythm. Find a rhythm. What's a rhythm that you like? Put words to it. Find words of a suitable length, 1, 2, 3 syllable words, and put them to it and let them express in that way. and throw them all in a hat and shake up the hat and spill them out on the table and see how they all fit. And I'm going to bring you a poem next week when we get into the rhythmic aspect of all of this. I'm going to bring you a poem that is completely inappropriate for a Sunday morning. But it's got a great beat. It's got a great beat. And I will watch you as I read it to you. I'll watch your body kind of go with it. See where it's going, all right? Again, it's all a metaphor. This is what you want in life. I hear people talk about authenticity and being real and showing up vulnerably, and all of which is great, and all of which is jargon. Because what it's really saying is just be you. Go be you as unabashedly, unapologetically as you possibly can. Go be you, and your life will be richer for it. Let's know together now there is one life, one power, one presence. Everywhere radiating, everywhere manifesting on this beautiful Sunday morning. And I feel the poetry of life. I feel the music of the spheres pouring through my soul. I affirm and know for each one of us here that it's easy to express our inner voice as fully as we choose to. And we are enlivened and empowered by the experience. And when others hear our song and applaud and approve, it's just the cherry on top. It's nice, but it's not essential. The essential thing is that we stand in our truth and sing our truth. This is easy for each one of us to do. There may just be some unlearning involved. To return to that simple, spontaneous self that believes in belief, that believes in magic, that believes that when clouds cross the face of the moon at night, it signals something highly, highly significant and is to be heard and followed. For this knowing and its manifestation in form everywhere I turn, I am so deeply grateful. I release this word now into the infinite, calling it done, and so it is.
I was thinking the root word for poem, by the way, comes from Greek into Latin into French, and it means something made or something created, in case you didn't know. And by the way, Jesse, if you think dissecting English poetry is something that you don't like, try it in Latin and Greek. I was just thinking, the reason why one of the reasons why we have our book studies on Monday, Wednesday, Philosophy Friday, and our classes is to enable you to connect more with our teaching, or this teaching. So I encourage all of you, if you've never tried it before, try one of the book studies, The Untethered Soul, Living the Science of Mind or Philosophy Friday. And also we have lots of classes that are going to be coming up for you. Well, of course, I forgot what I was going to say now, Dainill. It completely went out of my head. I mean, it's just completely gone. I had something, but anyway, it's gone. So, also tune into the daily readings and the meditation on Wednesday. You know, stay connected. I don't know what's going on in the front row here, but there's a lot of giggling going on. And anyway, whatever it was will come back to me right after I get off here. Oh, yeah, I was going to say, Mary, that was wonderful. I think, you know, coming on with the Harp right after Reverend Jesse was talking about poetry, I think that was the perfect combination. And whatever you said at the beginning before the service, you are a wonderful harp player. You are a great harp player. And I'm not just saying that. I mean, that's true. You heard all the clapping here. So as we come up to giving time, once again, we appreciate everything you do for us. The messages we put out, I'm sure you'll agree, they're positive, they're uplifting. It's in order to make a better world where everybody's recognized for who they are as a human being and that nobody is better than anybody else. And our job really is to bring about a world that works for everybody. That's our whole purpose, and when you support us, that's what we're doing. So as our usher gets up from his notes, that's what I was going to tell you. If you're in person and you actually look at the program we hand out to you, you'll see there is a full page for taking notes. And if you miss that, then in the weekly email, there is a summary that David Lemaster, one of our practitioners, puts together, so you can get a summary of the whole service. So that's another reason to go to the email. So now let's say together, divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all the good I am and have, all the good I give and receive. I'm prosperous now, and so it is.
So in the spirit of this month being Poetry Month, Jesse has invited me to read my poetry with you guys. It's always a wonderful pleasure of mine to share my poetry. And today's poem, the title is Ravya. Many, especially parents or grandparents of young kids, may know there was a cartoon that came out a few years ago by the title of Ravya. It was a very good cartoon. If you are like animated, even without kids, I would encourage you to watch it. But I love that name, right? Ravya. It was just so beautiful to me. So I looked it up. It means to be worshipped, blessed, chosen of God, graceful, and peaceful. And when I read the definition of it, that just felt so inspiring. And chosen of God and of God came this poem that I'm about to read to you. And the title is Ravya. Home, a sacred song, shimmers in this place a twinkle of power, wonder, and grace, dwelling behind the eyes of every single face. Love, longing from loss, the soul yearning to be found, that single source, meaning, a desire older than time, fire, stone, elemental liquid, and air, a sacred knowing, carried on the wind, connection is there. Love is sensational. Love is terrifying. It can explode in the most exhilarating parts of us, and it can crumble us beyond exhaustion and despair. It's the best of us and the most of us. It is in all of us. It is us. It's that part of us that we give and share with another human that makes us the most human we can possibly be. Heart to heart, soul to soul, love to love. I sense my senses through your life, giving love experiences lets me know that we are one, and I am home. Thank you.
All right, so those are the announcements. And as Reverend Jesse was reading all that poetry and talking about comparing you to the sun, and I can't find it, and I will find it. Somebody wrote something funny one time about comparing women to the sun and to the moon. Why do we compare women to the sun? We can't look directly at the sun. We're constantly squinting. And usually frustrated because it's too hot. So, but then same thing with the moon. If you compare a woman to the moon, well, she's constantly half here and half there, and at certain parts of the month she just disappears. So welcome to poetry. It can say whatever you want, and it can be funny. So, but that is neither here nor there right now, because I believe that treatment is poetry in and of itself. We had a poet laureate here for a very long time by the name of Dick Schmeltzkopf. And when he would write poetry, it didn't rhyme and it didn't follow a rhythm. It was his own thing. Well, the good news is treatment's the same thing. You can use as many words or as few words as you want. You can use big words or small words. It's whatever evokes the feeling in you. The idea behind poetry and treatment is to connect the head and the heart. So step with me for a moment, consciously, into the sacred. It is all sacred all the time. As a friend of mine likes to say, one of our practitioners, every moment is a holy moment. That's what Terry likes to say. Every moment is a holy moment. But when in treatment, what we do is we consciously enter into that sacred space. We enter into that place where nothing has ever been wrong, where nothing ever can be wrong. And we sit there for a moment and fill up. And then we bring that energy back into linear time, the material world, and we watch amazing things happen. So know with me now that there is one life, one power, one presence, one love. And each and every one of us is a manifestation of that love. We are divine channels for that love. That power flows through us as we live that life. As we walk into this next week, may we know who we are. May we recognize that we are beloved expressions of the divine, and that we are constantly meeting other beloved expressions of the divine, and that when we touch, magic happens. And I speak my word for the teachers as they walk back into their classrooms and prepare for the coming of the students, that they recognize that they are that expression of the divine, and that each student that comes to them is a beloved expression of the divine. And while, yes, they are there to teach them to be logical, they also get to teach them to be magical. And I release my word into that law with all of the love and gratitude that I have. I am grateful for a teaching that reminds me who I am, a community that comes together to remind each other of that. I am grateful for our practitioners, our musicians, our ministers, the technology that allows us to send this out across the ethers and across time. And I am grateful for each and every one of you as the beloved expressions of the divine that you are. as you grow into that knowing. And I know that it is, and so it is.
Say with me now, something wonderful is happening through me. I feel it in my body. I feel it in my mind. I feel it in everything I am. I choose it. I trust it. I use it. And I love it. So it is.